Hello and welcome to Mostly Minnesota Music Podcast Edition. I am Ann Tracy and I'm here with my co-host,
Heather Baker.
Yes, and we are here with Matt Levitt of Orchid Eaton.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you
for having me here.
Us. Yeah, we're here on your album release eve, which is always so exciting.
Yeah. It's been, this album has definitely been a long time coming, so it's nice to be able to be at the point where it's popping out of the earth and blooming tomorrow, so to speak.
Tomorrow. That's excellent. Well, I might even step back because I know your work because you in Moon and Pollution. I think I wrote a review of you guys years ago, maybe from the Ice House.
Oh yeah, right on. Okay.
Yeah. It's always a sound that I like. But tell us a little bit about the band. It's you and Brian Moen, and
So I had met Brian and always was aware of his work. Growing up in Eau Claire, Brian was really kind of in a lot of seminal bands back in that time. And it was kind of a pretty impressionistic time for me too, just seeing live music. And, there was a ton of amazing local bands kind of in that scene. And, had been a huge fan of his work with Justin Vernon's old band, DeArmond Edison, and also Amateur Love. That was kind of like one of the first bands I really fell hard in love with that I was somewhat associated with, and loved Brian's work through Peter Wolfkrier and other projects as well. And we had a chance to work with him. He had recorded a previous project I was in, EMOT. He recorded our third record. And Brian and I kind of stayed in touch after that, and we kind of fell into this place where, we shared a lot of similar interests, musically speaking, and also kind of aesthetically. And getting a chance to work with him on that record was, it really kind of led to this present project, which is Orchid Eaton. And so after EMOT kind of dissolved, I started working on some solo tunes that were pretty outside of that project. And at that time, Brian was living in California, and I was like, I just have to email him out of the blue and see if he's interested in working on it. And, it's funny that, in the sense that everything now has kind of come to a close in terms of working in person, because during that first record, we basically sent everything over email and worked remotely, so to speak, for that first record, and to some extent for the second record too, because we started making it before the pandemic and kind of finished it right at the height of everything being completely closed and completely scary too. So it's but we're just both very simpatico in terms of our sensibilities. It's just his drumming is unreal, and his mixing abilities are, when I'm making songs, I have ideas of what, of directions I would hope they would like to go. But Brian always kind of meets those places and takes it to a completely other level of something that really makes me excited. So, we're continuing to work. This record we finished back in January of this year, so it's just kind of finally seeing the light of day now. But we're both kind of set up with our home spaces now and are continuing to work on some new tunes too. So it's been a really fruitful relationship, both creatively and musically, and just really happy to call him a bandmate in this project.
You have a unique sound. I hear a little bit of this. I hear a little bit of it. But across the board, there are parts that I'm like, this is kind of almost like some 70s Beatles going on here. And then I'll hear something like, this little Nutrimilk Hotel. And, Heather, you're probably even hearing other bits and pieces.
I was going to say, a lot of Jim James or My Morning Jacket. I don't know what. I hope. I don't know. That's what I hear. I love it.
Yeah. Well, thank you both so much for checking out the tunes and having me on the show to talk about it. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, stylistically speaking, I mean, the kind of the genesis idea of this project, as in opposition to some of the other projects I was working on, was to kind of explore different chord changes and tonalities that really didn't fit into kind of a really slow indie rock band. And definitely heavily influenced, at least initially, by 60s and 70s psychedelic, kind of light psychedelic pop music.
Yeah.
I just went down a rabbit hole, and I don't think I've ever emerged. Like, I'm still finding new things that are interesting in that vein. And it's, you know, it's not always lyrically, you know, really heavy hitting by any means, but just the instrumentation of it just really seems to elicit a lot of further direction that I can see it taking, and also like recontextualizing a lot of those kind of songwriting fundamentals in more of a modern context as well. So it's not necessarily like we're like a retro slave band or anything. Like those are truly the tones and the tonalities that we seek out, and I think that those are the things that really bring us to a place where we feel like we're making something interesting and exciting.
It's music that now I won't pretend like I remember music from the 60s. I don't, but for better or for worse, I certainly remember music from the 70s, which would have been whatever my parents were listening to. But there is that kind of lightness about it, and that, as you said, there's just that poppiness, but it's, you know, the bing, the boom, that all the different noises that I just really love. That I find it super intriguing, and I don't know if that's because that's what I was listening to when I was 5, 6, 7, 8, but it just there's something that's very comforting to me about it, even in its kind of quirkiness. And it's, you know, usually it's that repetition that gets you comfort, but this it's very compelling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like, you know, in some of those greatest examples, like the ones that I really come back to was this band called Sagittarius, and I came to find out the main songwriter of that band grew up in Eau Claire, so there was like this kind of deeper connection. I was like, wow, I you know, I don't believe in fate necessarily, but I was like, clearly this is like a reason I'm into this right now on some level. But yeah, it's just, there's a naivete to the presentation of it that I find really endearing and really charming. And kind of matching that hopefulness with kind of exploring other themes too. And I think one of the real important goals of this project was just to be as unguarded as possible and to be as direct as possible too. So, you know, those two things really continue to guide songs that are written for this project.
Yeah, you seem to cover a lot of ground. I will say, just for the week that we're in, and for folks who are listening to this later, the Chauvin verdict just came out a couple of days ago. We're still dealing with all of the pandemic and everything else. Said Just Right. I could listen to that on loop all day, all night. It just, there's something very, you know, you know, it's there, the sound of it and everything else. I just thought it lifts you up, you know, which is not every song in the album does it. I mean, you cover a lot of ground in the album.
Yeah, and it's, you know, obviously a lot of I tend to keep my songwriting focus pretty heavily internal monologue, you know, especially with this project, in terms of, you know, what I spoke about, of just leaning in as much as possible to, especially things that can feel uncomfortable to talk about openly. And because I think before I would have a tendency to kind of step back from those lines and kind of say like, well, I'm, you know, maybe saying it overtly is not the right tact, or I would find a different way to say it, you know. But I do feel like every song for this project does lend itself to kind of breaking things down lower and lower till it resonates. And if it resonates for me, hopefully it does you know, means something to someone else too. I feel like that's a good internal mirror to look into when writing songs. But yeah, I mean, that for me was kind of more of just an internal dialogue. But yeah, after I've kind of reflected on it more as we were finishing it during the pandemic, it like had this other meaning too about you know, not necessarily absolving yourself from being active in societal change, and but taking comfort in letting go of your own control in some respects too.
I like that's it's an important lesson to learn. And one of the songs that I like is CL.
Mm-hmm.
And that, you know, kind of starting with the losing all your baby teeth and the chutes and ladders. And I have 3 kids. So you know, and listening to it reminds me obviously of my own kids and how quickly they seem to go, and to, you know.
Yeah. And it was, that's interesting too. I mean, I have now 2 daughters, an 8-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. And it is, I'm always just struck at that feeling of how, you know, as I'm aging, and I'm, you know, this is just purely my perception, but it's just that, you know, the time seems to like speed up exponentially, you know, wherein you're just living all these beautiful little moments and trying to just squeeze every ounce of life and be as present as possible. And I think that's such a worthy mental exercise to be involved in every aspect of your life too. But yeah, it rushes by faster than you can even experience it in some ways.
That roller coaster doesn't slow down as you get to the, and I imagine with such a spread, I have 3 daughters, and the first 2 are about a year and a half, not quite a year and a half apart, and then another one is 4 or 5 years younger. But I'd say with the 2 daughters and the gap between, you may feel that even more acutely than I do, you know, because you kind of, yeah. I don't know what makes me think of that. I think sometimes if you got 3 kids under 6, it's such a whirlwind, you don't even have time. But when
right. Yeah, we kind of had like the whole experience, and then she launched into school, and we're kind of back into that again. But it's made me be so, I've really tried to be very purposeful about kind of letting go of a lot of the, you know, anxiety I had the first time around, and just like, you know, slow down, it's gonna be okay. You know, just take it in while it's so fleeting and so here. And yeah, I mean, part of that, the influence of that song too, is just again, kind of taking things as duality and having 2 choices, and kind of boiling it down to playing this game with my daughter. And, you know, it's like about how much often those 2 choices that I would present myself with in an internal sense are completely false, and how many other choices and how many other experiences are there beyond that I haven't even considered.
It's a good, well, yeah. And and to talk about the chutes and ladder, I like that. That's a very much, yes. Sometimes you got to go off the board.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes you get to, and sometimes you have to.
And sometimes you have to do the dishes so you can climb the ladder, you know, like.
Yeah, very, very much so. Yeah. So that one is one that and the other song is The Wrong Wrong.
I like that one.
Can you tell us just a little bit about that one? Because it's a very moving song.
Yeah, that one went through several iterations of, I mean, on a similar theme. And it was, you know, kind of at its core, just sort of a reflection of in relationships with, you know, friends or family, or your partner, spouse, whoever it might be, I think for a long time, I recently got sober from alcohol 2 years ago now, or going on 2 years. And as part of that, as part of that process of kind of getting deeper into that, I would often kind of look outward in terms of finding things that didn't feel right, or that, of things that weren't working. And, I think it's like maybe the classic grass is greener syndrome, or whatever the case may be. It's thinking that if you change the outward appearances with others, that you can, make things feel better internally. And I think the realization that I came to eventually is like, I had to look inward to really make those types of changes, and to really reach a new spot of feeling okay and complete. And I think that was a really worthwhile journey at the end, but definitely it had its hard moments for sure. But mainly just a reflection of that process of kind of like, and part of this, even though it's using a song like Wrong Wrong, where it sounds like so heavy and so dour, but it's also a way for me to kind of like place some of those uncomfortable feelings on the table, and kind of, lightly examine them, and lightly make fun of them too. It's like, after we've considered all these little chess pieces, it's like they are what they are. And, maybe I'm the problem at the end of the day.
It's a great song for the era that we're in.
Yeah. I mean, because I think, at least for me personally, I'm not very far into any practice of mindfulness, but when I do, I feel like every slate of society could be really beneficial for, looking deeper into those types of things, and how we can bring our best selves to every interaction that we might have, or any relationship we might have.
Does the music help you get to that point, or do you get to that point and that informs your music?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think in the process of making it, I try to be as, I feel like I'm doing the best songwriting when I'm not being intentional about it. So if I have impulses, or kind of chasing those feelings that feel right, or they may be little phrases or something that feels worthwhile to continue to pursue. Because it's not often now that I'll kind of sit down and just finish a song. It's like, it's pretty meticulous. I kind of have a work system set up where I, will kind of revise a lot and self-edit and arrive at something that I really want to spend, a couple months on to finish. So in that way, I feel like I may have lost the thread of your question, but I apologize.
well, it's interesting because your answer makes me think, what is the process? Because we don't often hear someone say, I like the process and meticulous and take months. We hear about the songs where someone says, oh, I woke up and,
Mm-hmm.
and there it was, but it sounds like I would love to hear more about the process that you have cultivated. You've been doing this a while.
Right. And I think what I missed and what I was trying to say is that oftentimes the meaning of, a batch of songs, and, because they're kind of finished more or less around the same time, I'll often listen to the finished product after it's done, and then kind of be like, only then can I see like the through thread between all those songs. Cause I do kind of get lost in the minutia of the act of making the song, and making sure that the lyrics especially are representative of a true experience. That's something that's so important to me too. And they have to feel honest and true for this project, especially, or else the song will get tossed, or, I'll go back to the drawing board on the lyrics. Some of these songs I did spend a lot of time rewriting just because it wasn't working. And yeah, I mean, I have a lot of respect for just kind of the mystical nature of songwriting too. Like I've done this for a while, but I still don't really understand how it works either. It's like a lot of times I'll feel like after I finish a song, it's like, well, maybe that's the last song I'll ever finish, and it hasn't worked out that way so far. Thankfully, it seems like the well has other ideas to show, but it does seem so odd and magical in some respects. And I feel like the more I lean into that, the better I feel about the songs in general.
And I can't even remember if it was before we pushed record or not, but we were talking about the sense of relief we're all feeling right now. Is that when you finish a song, do you have that sense of relief, or do you have that sense of joy, or do you have that sense of, hope that was good,
Yeah, I think kind of all of the above, I guess. I mean, I tend to usually finish the instrumentation first and kind of build that framework. And then, I mean, it doesn't always happen that way, but that's often how I'll start. Because I often, if I'm trying to kind of search around in the dark for a melodic idea or, some, keyboard tone or whatever it might be, often the instrumentation is what will kind of like speak to a feeling or suggest something, and it may be that I'll come up with a couple sentences or something, and then sometimes that's all that I'll have for 2 months to 6 months, and then if it's good, or if I feel like it's worthwhile to continue to explore, often I'll come back to it several times and kind of give myself some space from it to see if it's still working and see if it's, or, the time away might reveal something else about it. I might want to try out a different idea about where to go with it. Yeah, but I do feel like the act of songwriting is almost like any other mindfulness practice, really. I mean, it's like, so I'll try to work on it as much as possible, even if it's not successful in coming up with a song a day or something.
That's it. But that explain one of the things that I like very much about this album is each song is very different. I mean, there's commonality to it, but it's I like, Said Just Right is very different than Casino Drums. I mean, I like that. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome to hear you say that. Really appreciate that. Yeah, it's I mean, I feel like there are some kind of loose parameters of what this project can be, but there's a lot of opportunities for songs to go a lot of different places too with this project, which also feels kind of liberating in that sense too, that this could really be whatever we want it to be moving forward too. I think we're all willing to try out whatever the song asks for at a given moment.
Did you guys, since the internet hates me tonight, sorry, I don't know if you talked about it, but I really loved the song Lonely Beach. Can you tell us anything behind that one? Because the lyrics on that one, I'm very interested to hear what you have to say on it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, we didn't talk about that tune. Yeah, that was definitely one of the songs that probably had some of the most work on it, just in terms of this whole record. And informed wise, I the image that really stuck in my mind is that scene in Pinocchio where Geppetto and his cat are stuck in the whale, and it's like this wide pan hand-drawn shot of just this guy stuck inside, and kind of relating that to, and again, I'm probably not going to get all the details right, because I don't know the actual story of Jonah and the whale too, but I read enough to kind of understand what that image meant too, and kind of relating both those aspects to just me trying to get, my stuff sorted out and to get sober at that point. So that combined too with, kind of that refrain at the end of about leaning into those feelings of love and acceptance for both things that are actively right in front of you, but also like acknowledging, kind of the blue notes and the wordiness too, and kind of giving and accepting that feeling for both of those things, for sure.
I was going to say, when I was listening to this album, I'm sure it was healing for you guys too, but right now I just feel like with our climate in Minnesota especially, like I'm trying to cruise through everything just like, I don't really want to feel the feels because I don't know if I'm going to, go zoom way down.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, this whole album lets you touch your feelings a little bit, but not let you go crashing down. And I was just like, wow, I don't know. I was floored on how you kind of guide us through in this loving way, kind of like hugging, holding us with the 70s, like light, airy feel, but allowing us to hit those things that, if you're like me, try not to touch.
Totally. And like, yeah, I mean, because I think my impulse so many times with, kind of uncomfortable patterns or, bad feelings is, straight up avoidance. And, usually the body remembers somehow, even if your mind is like, no, not interested in hearing what you have to say. It's like, body is a wise vessel too. And like, just that opportunity to kind of like get in there and face the, one of the interesting things that kind of guided that exact process of what you're talking about is I got really in when I was kind of at the stage of writing lyrics for this record. I read and kind of reread the Tibetan Book of the Dead quite a bit, and that was one of the first quasi-religious texts that really reached me on a sense of not only what happens when you die, but just kind of examining and imagining, what the actual, if somebody made a movie of all of the decisions you had made as a human being, how would that look to yourself? How would, we'd probably all be both awed and horrified at our own behavior in different states. And I found that image to be so terrifying, but also like comforting too, just that if we were presented with that opportunity, how mind-blowing it would be, and also what an opportunity it would be to just accept everything wholeheartedly and just like let yourself dissolve into all these, not to say that you're absolved from ever making decisions or having consequences. I think it's just, for somebody like me who spends a lot of time examining what's going on upstairs, it was a really impactful kind of way to consider, kind of moving beyond duality and just, everything exists at once sort of thing.
I was going to say your other song too. You're singing to the choir on how you deal with life, because I think we are the same there. But your song "Just Right" too. I didn't realize how much I connected with that too, based on the death of George Floyd. Like, I was so freaked out to do anything outside of my 4 people bubble, because I was like, I'm going to do something and it's going to blow something up worse. And I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to sit here because I don't know the perfect thing. And listening to your song, I'm like, that's what I was. That's what I was doing. So I'm just like, I don't know what you had intended, but that's where it hit me, where I don't know. I just feel I've never felt so connected to music or an album before. So it's really cool.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that I 100% agree that was one of those moments of kind of reflecting on it after, because it had kind of like been in the works after that moment too. And I 100% agree. I think, before that very pivotal moment, I was very much in the, I was not as aware as I should have been. And certainly that moment, I think for a lot of people, was kind of a catalyst to really do some serious work on, white privilege and white supremacy and racial justice writ large. I mean, and that work, as well as, tangential to making music, has been so rewarding, and it never stops either, but it does give so much agency in terms of what we can bring, and what kind of active repair we can start to engage in too, about this problem that feels completely, massive and societal. And but yeah, it is one of those things too, that coming back to that song, that wasn't like necessarily an active piece of it, but absolutely, it's like, it's all encompassing. I think, again, looking back on it after the record has been finished, I think it's all those things. It's reckoning with our racial realities, and kind of my relationship with social media too, that's been kind of off and on over the years. I don't do a very good job at it, I think, probably because I'm a little bit leery of it still, but yeah, all of those things kind of like coming together. And I think too, like, I really respond a lot to kind of repetitive type, more almost like drone music. And that was definitely, I a lot of times when I'll write songs, I'll kind of get stuck in these little loops of, verses or chord changes. And, it feels very right on some level that I don't think I even really understand why, but yeah, I'm happy that it provided some sort of connection for you both.
It's very soothing. And I'm a fan of drone. I'm a fan of harsh ambient. I can listen to a lot of that. I mean, I find that to be very soothing as well. There is something that's just very, yeah, I mean, it's something that hits in the back of the head as much
Totally.
as in your core, or something where you just are, you exhale.
Yeah. Like Elaine Radigay, like your fridge running drum music. It's like it totally does. Like, it appeals to like your hindbrain. It's like the tone of the universe or something. It's like I would love to really lean into that in a big way at some point with making music. Yeah, I always like feel like I have those little tangents where I will not explore it to its fullest extent of like, all right, folks, here's my 25-minute drone song, buckle up. But you know, it's kind of part of the language that I like in writing songs for sure.
It's very, I think you saw one of my younger roommates. I have dragged her to a couple of, not harsh ambient, but some of the drone stuff. And it's very, she's not as much of a fan as I am, but there is something that's just very, guttural is the only word I can come up with, but it really does kind of hit to a core of you feel the music as much as you, and there's something about the song and that repetition of it. And then, well, and then we'll kind of pivot a little bit to say, and then you've got the video for that song as well.
Yeah. So that was a kind of another quarantine project that I did with a local filmmaker, videographer, and I'm gonna just 1 second here. Sorry.
No.
Yeah, so Sploony, who's done work with other artists like Trevor Hagen, who did this like really bonkers kind of drone trumpet type work, but it's just incredible stuff. And you know, I don't even really fully understand his process necessarily. It's like for this video he took live video footage that was actually filmed out in the woods in Wisconsin, and then ran it through his it's like some computer algorithm or something that kind of manipulates actual footage in real time. And it's just amazing. And it like, I think as part of that, the overall thematic view of this record, I really do like leaning into, you know, not like, whoa, dude, psychedelia, but it is appealing to me. Like, it's just, it feels right for this project. And it's always interesting to kind of explore that in different contexts about, you know, what that means, and to really find simpatico people, I think for me too, about in the visual arts world that because I know nothing about it personally, but I definitely like to try to make those connections with other artists that I like their work and feel like their vision would really complement the song really well. So it was all just a remote collaboration. He created all the video stuff, and we looked at it a little bit, and kind of I gave him a little bit of direction, but it was mainly just all self-directed, which is just incredible. So it's up now. It was released about a month ago. You can check it out online on our website too. Yeah, but it was, I would love to work with him again. It was, I mean, just seeing what he came up with. I mean, really, I would like to have like visuals like that for every song on the record, you know, but I think that could be definitely something we would see or could look at in the future for sure.
Sorry. A quick, when seeing the video that somebody else does that you don't have, you know, a direction or what given to them, does it make you see or hear your song differently just paired with the video? Does it take a different direction or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's part of the interest of finding somebody like Scott to collaborate with, is that I really liked his work, and you know, I just wanted to see how he would interpret, or what, you know, his visual aesthetic would look like with the tunes. And I often kind of take that tack with video collaborators too, or anybody. I mean, it's just I find it's easiest to kind of just step out of the way, and that's how I've worked so effectively with Brian too. Is just so much of what works with our collaborative songwriting is we don't have to say, I don't have to spell out like, okay, it would be cool if you played this drum part. He just plays the drum part and then plays it way better than I ever would have thought it, so it's like trying to seek out those collaborators that it feels more effortless is always, and sometimes it doesn't work out and that's fine. But like, I think that is kind of a prerequisite of just finding like-minded people that you can kind of just trust with the tunes or whatever their vision is and be excited about it.
Or just to see too what inspires them and where it takes them, kind of creation you inspired. I think that's cool. Sorry, Ann. Yeah.
So Scott Lunny, he's got a website too, and is on Instagram. His Instagram is bonkers. I should definitely check that out. It's very cool.
Yeah, there's something organic yet psychedelic about it. So it's fun to hear about how it was put together. It is organic and psychedelic.
All right, sweet. No, I really like, I saw this exhibit at the Walker, it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago now, called, man, what was it? I'm not even gonna remember the name. It was like hippie psychedelia or hippie modernism. That's what it was. Oh man, that whole
great.
exhibit just blew my mind. Especially the video stuff too. So I still like when I think of, and I visited that exhibit when I was making the first record too, and it's still a pretty strong pull on kind of visual thematic elements to these 2 records for sure.
I could see that. I'm a regular attendee of the Walker, and I could, down to the visuals of it. But then they had the hand chair, and it was, all that flavor of the time. It's very, somebody, the second time this week I've thought of Love American Style, which is a show that you maybe have never even heard of, but it was,
I haven't.
I wasn't allowed to watch it in the 70s. But sometimes I hid behind the counter, but it was, it was the white go-go boots, and it was, and it was, I'm sure now it would not get past any, it's super inappropriate now, we wouldn't be, but the fashion of it, not just the boots, but just what everyone had. It's very, it obviously very something I grew up watching, and I always will gravitate to that. That was it. And this has the same sort of, there's always which always, as I said, again, it always comforts me because it reminds me of being a kid, in the best of way.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's, for folks who are listening, and I'll include this in the notes, tell people how they can find you, how they can find Orchid Eaton.
So we're out there on all the platforms, kind of the main places on our website, which is orchideaton.com. But yeah, Apple Music, Tidal, Bandcamp, if you're into that, is always kind of my preferred platform for artists and art lovers. But yeah, at any place that you'd look, we're hopefully out there. Deezer,
and you have
if you're
a thing
on
going
Deezer.
with Appetite for Change?
What's that?
Do you have a thing going for Appetite for Change?
Yep. So all the pre-orders for the record and for the single are going to be donated and matched to Appetite for Change, which is a North Minneapolis nonprofit that focuses on food and wellness. And it's just one way to try and lean into that, giving back in terms of this music. But also I work in organic agriculture when I'm not doing music too. And it seemed like a really worthwhile intersection of kind of my work in non-music and work in music, and to try and promote their really beautiful platform for creating change. I love that I'm really passionate about food and plants and agriculture in general. So yeah, I will probably extend that through tomorrow too. There's definitely a cool amount of pre-orders in, which is awesome. People have been really generous. So really looking forward to filling out that donation to them.
Nice. So really pre-ordering your album would be an amazing Earth Day activity for folks.
Yeah. And there's no physicals yet. It's all just digital. There'll probably be a couple of physicals, tapes most likely moving forward. But yeah, digital for the time being.
Nice. Well, I can't wait until everybody can hear it because it's a joy. And you may be playing some music this summer.
Yep. Depending on how things go, we are probably going to play a couple outdoor shows this summer. As things hopefully keep moving in the right direction. Cannot wait to play music in front of people and to hug people and to, get beer spilled on me and, whatever else might happen at a show. It's just, I cannot wait for that moment.
I said, I am never going to curse the tall person standing in front of me
Seriously,
again.
just like stand in front of me, man. Whatever.
Do it. Your long hair right in my nose and eyes. It's perfect. I love you.
Yeah.
Well,
100%.
hopefully we will all be together doing that soon. And congratulations on the album. We're just in happy release eve.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Ann and Heather, for having me on and for kind of living with the tunes for a while and asking such thoughtful questions. I really appreciate talking with you both.
Thank you.
Thanks.